tough circumstances in the downtown area of a big city. And the one thing it costs you when you grow up like that is compassion. You're a survivor, you know. I'm the kind of person you could drop anywhere in the world with no money and I'll survive, you know. That just happens to be me. But God is teaching me that with his mind in me, I can have all the compassion I can handle. I mean, just to give you an example of this, I live in Palm Springs in Southern California in the desert. And one morning I was leaving home to catch a plane from Ontario, which is an hour away. And I looked out in the driveway and I saw how dirty my car was because the sand blows up all the time. I thought, oh my goodness, maybe I'll go down and have my car washed before I leave. Then I can drive to Ontario and leave it in the parking lot there so it can be nice and dirty when I get back, you know. So I jumped in the car. It's a beautiful sunny morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm just wearing a pair of shorts and a T-shirt. I jumped in the car and I drove down to the car wash. It's kind of almost on the road that I live on. And I put the car in line and I went in and paid the money and I go out the back where you wait. This is quite a modern car wash, and so once your car comes through, you don't have to wait very long. It's almost totally dry already. And I've got into trouble with them a number of times because I get talking to people and I forget to pick up my car and drive off. So I'm trying to get better at this, you know. Anyway, I'm standing out the back leaning up against a pole. There's a little roadway where the cars come out, and on the other side of the roadway there's a small block wall. And I'm just standing there enjoying the sunshine. And I notice there's a young woman on the other side. She's sitting on this low block wall. And she's got a supermarket, what do you call those things? Cart. Yes, I've called them trolley for so many years I still can't say cart. Anyway, a supermarket cart. Hardly flows together, does it? Trolley sounds so much better. Anyway. Anyway, this cart is full of dirty old clothing. And she's picking up each piece of clothing, holding it up to the light, examining it, and then folding it up and putting it into a plastic sack. I thought, this is interesting. She's transferring all the clothes. Anyway, I'm just standing there enjoying this sight, and the thing that struck me was she's such a young woman. Because the word homeless has already jumped into my mind. She's obviously homeless. I'm sure some of you know that Los Angeles is the homeless capital of the United States. 80,000 homeless people. And some of them are starting to drift down into the desert now too. And this was a young girl. I said to myself, she can't be more than 20 years of age. Very young. Most of the homeless women are middle-aged or older women. And so I'm pondering this, and the Holy Spirit says to me, knock, knock. She's homeless. I said, well, yes, she looks homeless. And God says, well, I'd like to minister to her. So in my mind I said to God, well, that's what you do well. And you can never get ahead of God. You try. And he says, yes, but I usually need a human instrument. I said, yes, I admit you do. He said, well, you're pretty close to the scene here. You are the closest person. She's only as far away from me, about as far as you are right there, you know. I said, yes, I'm close to the scene, but you know you don't need me to remind you that I'm on a short time frame here. I've got a plane to catch. I've got to get home and get changed and drive an hour to the airport. God says, well, this is important to me. I said, okay. God says, well, I may as well come straight out with it. I'm choosing you. I said, okay. So I said to God, look, if it's okay, I'll get my car first. I'm going to be in trouble again with the car wash people. I'm getting a reputation here. Just let me pick up the car and then I'll move it off the lot. Then I'll go and talk to this girl. God said, okay, but remember, this is important to me. Anyway, she reached the last piece of clothing, put it in the plastic sack, threw it over her shoulder, and she marched off the lot and up to the main street of Palm Springs. I'm watching her. I said to myself, well, 7 o'clock in the morning, she will be the only person in the main street of the town that I live in. No one else will be up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I can't lose her. So a few minutes later, my car came out, I jumped in, I drove to the edge of the lot, and I've got to admit that temptation came over me. I could go left and go straight home. And I'm looking at the times like, Or I could go right up to the main street, which is a one-way street, and turn left and find the girl. And God says, remember, this is important to me. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I was just tempted for a moment there. So I quickly turned to the main street, and I drove down the main street. And of course, she is the only person on the main street at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I could see her standing down by a bus stop, and she had the sack resting on a bench there. So I drove past her, pulled up. I'm getting out of the car, and I said to God, you know, it would save me an awful lot of time and trouble if you could communicate with me exactly what you want me to say to this girl. Well, God says, that's fairly simple. Tell her that I've sent you and that I love her very, very much and that I'm aware of her circumstances. In fact, I'm concerned for her circumstances. And he says, put your hand in your pocket without looking, whatever's there, just pull it out and give it to the girl. And he said, remember, it's from me, not from you. This is all my idea. I said, yes, I know that. So I don't know if you've worked with homeless people before, but they are rather skittish. And if you approach them, they'll sometimes back away from you. And so as I walked towards this girl, she started stepping away from me, which I expected. I said, hey, it's okay. I'm really quite harmless. In fact, I'm a Christian. And God has just directed me to come and speak to you because he has a message for you. You should have seen the look of incredulity on her face. I mean, she could have written a book on cynicism, you know. So she said almost sarcastically to me, what is this great message from God that I am to receive today? I said, well, it's a beautiful message. He just wanted me to say to you that he loves you very, very much. And he understands the situation you're in at the moment in your life. And I saw a little tear. I said, oh, wow. Why do I ever doubt God? She said, did he really say that? I said, that's exactly what he said to me. And he wants me to pray with you right now. I do hope that's okay. Oh, she said, please. So I walked over, and as I got close to her, these two skinny, bony arms shot out, and they shot around my neck, and she pulled my head close to her head. And she just held me there, and she's weeping like a fountain. So I just lifted up my heart, and God gave me a precious prayer to pray for this girl. Anyway, I'm lifting her up to God, and guess what happens in the middle of my prayer? I started weeping. I said to myself, okay, I'm standing in the main street of the town I live in, where I know a lot of people. My arms around, well, she's got her arms around me, really. She's holding me. And we're both weeping. This has to be a great sight. And God goes, tap, tap. You know what God said to me? This was such an incredible moment for me. God says, I just thought you might like to know these are not your tears. You are privileged. This is the first time this has ever happened to me. You are privileged to be weeping my tears. You are feeling what I am feeling for this young woman. And I just looked up and I said, God, I would like to feel your feelings every single day of my life. It's the sweetest experience to know that there the majesty of all the universe is weeping through me just because of a young homeless girl on the streets of the city that I live in. Isn't that incredible? Amen. So finally I had to literally take her arms and pull them apart because she wasn't going to let go. I said, you know, I hate to do this, but I am under time constraints. But I said, God also wanted me to put my hand in my pocket and share with you. And this is from him, not from me. She said, well, I'm not asking for anything. I said, no, and I appreciate that, but God is offering. Would you be willing to receive from him, not from me? Oh, she said, thank you. I don't know how much was in my pocket. There was $10 or $15 there. And I apologised. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any more money on me at the moment. But God said whatever was in there is his gift to you. And she took it gratefully because she said she didn't even have 5 cents to her name. And I'll never forget the sight as long as I live. As I ran back to my car and I was just about to jump in and I turned and looked back. And there's this skinny, scrawny, dishevelled girl standing there on the main street waving to me like this, but some joy on her face. And I said to myself, wow. And I looked up and said, you are the most amazing God. And to think that I am privileged to have his thoughts. I mean, who was thinking about that girl, me or God? God was thinking. I was just standing there. But God was thinking ministry. I was thinking too bad. She's hopeless, you know. But God was seeing the heart. And imagine that you could actually weep God's tears. This is God at his best. So when we put on the mind of Jesus, I want to tell you, ministry takes on a whole new perspective.